Hello, this is Carl Seidel on The People's View, and today we're going to be talking with Dennis Hogan. Dennis is running for Register of Deeds.
Right.
Okay, you've been a district attorney, and you've been other things in the legislature or whatever, and
Yeah, right.
now you're going for this office.
Right.
Can you tell us a little bit about why you're going to Register of Deeds?
Well, yeah, it's one of those things that is, I feel is in my wheelhouse, so to speak.
Okay.
You know, I've been an attorney for 20 years, and so I've dealt with the Registry of Deeds as, as a customer, of course. My clients need to have deeds registered, so I've done that for them. And there's times where I have to use the Registry of Deeds to research people's deeds, because sometimes my clients have damages, and they want to know if somebody else has property that they can get the damages from, that sort of thing.
Oh.
So it's in my wheelhouse. And then, of course, having been, as you say, not county attorney, with some
county
people say
attorney,
district
that's right,
attorney,
yeah.
around the world, around the country, they often call them district attorneys. But so in that, I got the experience of being a manager, which is what the Registry of Deeds position is, being a manager for the county, making budgets, presenting the budgets to the commissioners and the county executive committee, which you've been on. So and of course you've seen me in doing those things.
Doing lots of things.
Yeah, so I mean you get those same aspects of it in something that's already in my wheelhouse, because
Right.
I'm an attorney. So I thought it would be, and when you look at the ballot, of course, all the other county officials are Republican incumbents. So that's why I chose Registry of Deeds, because it's something I have dealt
You had
with,
experience,
and I have the experience to bring to the table. So, and hopefully that makes for a very, very strong Republican ticket. I think people will be happy with who they see on the Republican side from top to bottom.
I think people miss that a lot, the county offices that we have here in Hillsborough County.
Well, the people have to turn over the page so they can see all those county officials.
Right.
I'm not sure what else is there, but all the county ones are in the back of their ballot. I'm sure they'll be told to turn it over, and the constitutional questions that are on the back of the ballot as well.
So what about those constitutional questions?
They're very interesting. I didn't even know they were there until a few weeks ago. And somebody started asking me about them, so I started looking into them. And the first one, you read it and you're like, well, what is this? There's no explanation at all. And you read it and you're like, that's these words. Maybe they're good, maybe they're not good. I'm not sure. What people need to know is those words are from the Constitution, exactly.
Right.
What's missing from what's in the Constitution today are the words register of probate. So in sections 71 and 80, something I can't remember, but the two sections they have, so there's two paragraphs you'll see. And all that's missing from those words, when you look at the Constitution and those amendments, the only thing missing, and that's what it is, there's nothing added, only missing is the word registry of probate. So what about, why do they want to eliminate registry of probate from the Constitution, is the obvious question. Well, back in 2011, and I think you were there then, right?
Right,
you were
right, that was there.
You were talked into, and I didn't necessarily agree with this at the time, but you were talked into as legislators of removing the things that the Register of Probate did.
Right.
It's a Register of Probate was somebody elected, same as county attorney, county treasurer, county Register of Deeds, county sheriff. They were all listed, and you'll see them listed on the question, because they are still will be listed. They were all something that was to be elected by the people back when they established the Constitution, and then the Register of Probate, as it developed, by the time I became an attorney, which is 2002, I saw the Register of Probate as somebody who occasionally came to the window at the Registry of Probate clerk's desk. You'd go to the clerk's window at the court, and I did on occasion see him. The complaint about that particular one in Hillsborough was that he spent half his time in Florida, because he was getting to that age where half and half. And so they were seeing that there weren't really that many responsibilities for that office, and yet it was a full-time thing. And the courts also wanted to organize so that we had a circuit court, and that reduced the amount of clerks there were in general. So they reduced the amount of clerks, made a circuit court, got rid of the responsibilities of the Registry of Probate. So since that time, no one has complained. No one said, "Oh, we should bring it back." So I've kind of come around to, okay, that was an okay thing to do. And you also vote still to put somebody in this office that is not doing anything. And so in my mind, it just adds to the confusion of,
Yes.
of a voter that you turn over the back and you say to yourself, well, what's register of deeds? What's register of probate? And the answer, why you don't, I'm happy to answer that question for anybody, but the answer to what's register of probate makes people's eyes glass over, right? And so they never get to register, and so knowing what register of deeds and the importance of that, and the county attorney and the sheriff, it's kind of being.
So it's just a cleanup type of thing.
It's entirely a cleanup thing at this point. It's entirely a cleanup. The system with the circuit court is running fine, and the register of probates, probate has been, the responsibilities have been given to somebody else, and it works. And now it's time to clean it up so that when somebody reads the Constitution, they're reading what's actually happening. I like that idea because, we can amend the Constitution. It's always been amendable. Amendable, not amenable, amendable. It's always been that way. That's the founders wanted it that way. If the people, there's enough people that say we need to change it, then yes, you should change it. And that's a change that I think I would advise people that yes, that needs to be made. And then when people vote, they'll be voting for something that actually means something. You're actually giving somebody responsibilities, and that'll be a good.
So you think they should have a little sentence or two of explanation or something like that on there?
I don't think it would have hurt, but I just, of course, what I just explained was a lot longer than one little word.
Right.
So I think if they had just written, do you favor removing the term registry of probate so that it now reads, and then.
Well, then
or maybe
people was going to say, why are you going to do it?
Well, right. And I suppose you then have to explain that
somebody else is doing the job.
It no longer has any responsibilities, and it's paid a very small amount of money, and and then so all in all, I would go ahead and I would vote yes on that one.
On the other one?
Now the second one is just a question that's put on there every 10 years. It is, do you want to have a constitutional convention?
That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
And what that ends up meaning for people who haven't lived through them, and there's a lot more people now, because the last one we had was in 1984. If you vote yes, the election for that will be whatever the next election is. So I don't know when that'll be. Maybe I don't know exactly how they'll organize it. However, in 1984, the election for it was the same day as the presidential primary, which at the time I think was in March, not February, but don't quote me on that. So then, and the people that are elected to that are called delegates, and the delegates have the same what do you call it? Jurisdictions, or
they have to be located in a certain districts.
It's the same as the state reps.
Okay.
So the jurisdictions for the delegates are the same as state reps.
Okay.
So if your ward has 3 state reps, you're going to get 3 of those. It's nonpartisan. So they're just people that are just listed without the party, which makes it interesting. That's when I ran in 1984, it was the first thing I ever ran for. So I'm sure I got votes from both sides, because nobody, was saying, "Oh, I don't agree with his party politics." They just saw me as...
But since '84, they've always voted it down.
Right, and I think the reason for that is because on the Democrat side, they don't want the Republicans to get a constitutional convention and start, passing some things that they agreed with the Supreme Court on, like. For example, we might get in there and amend things regarding the voter ID, not voter ID, but the whole rigmarole we go on about, because students that come over from some other place, and they're at Dartmouth for a year or 2, or for whatever amount of time they're there, and they're voting in New Hampshire when they're really, they consider themselves from Colorado or California or something. That and so there's all this debate about domicile and residency. And so if we could actually put an amendment in and propose to the people that fixes that.
Well, we are looking at our election laws very carefully, and I think every time we're tweaking them somehow and trying to get it better, and if we see some problems or potential problems, we want to change it a little bit.
As the legislators, right.
And so you think that the Democrats would worry about any changes in that area?
Well, I think on the Republican side, we could get some things done, but on the other hand, there's Republicans who worry that Democrats are going to propose some amendments that break the bank, or and
so it doesn't make any difference.
Make up entitlements that they don't agree with. So
whether you're a Republican or Democrat, some are good and some want it and some don't want it.
That's right. It's really a nonpartisan issue because it all depends on whether you think it would go well. Now, I would say, why worry about what amendments they propose? Those amendments are still going to have to get a supermajority.
Right.
And I don't know I can't remember whether it's 2/3 or 3/5, but it's still going to need, to get passed by more than just, by more than just 50% of the people. So I'm not afraid of it. I was there and saw how it happened, and people are very thoughtful, and some things, there was many proposals, and only 9 came out of it. And of those 9, I can't remember how many passed, although I do remember that one of them was to no longer have bicameral.
Really?
No, not bicameral. What did we call it?
Sessions?
Sessions.
Yeah.
That were every other year.
Right.
Is the way it used to be. Right. So it used to be that they would arrive on the odd numbered year, pass a budget with 2 years to it, and then not return until 2 years later. So that year, 1984, I was in that convention, and then I ran for state rep, and I was in undergraduate at the time at UNH. So I was taking classes. So I thought I was just that spring semester, I would be a little bothered by it, but I would rearrange it by taking classes in the summer and making up maybe in the fall. Well, didn't you know? I ended up signing up for something that was 2 different years. So that really messed me up. So I had to do even more work because I had to go back another time. So we did it in 85 and in 86.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for the first time, yeah. Now, I think a lot of what was done, there was a lot of carryover too. We only do this every other year. Yeah. So the second year was kind of truncated, is that the word? It was made smaller by the fact that, it was just the experience of all the legislators who were experienced legislators at the time, that we'd get things done in the first one and have much less to do in the second one. Now, of course, you stretch it out so people are there all the time. It seems like it never really stops.
That was one of my questions. Do you have these informal meetings or whatever you want to call them? Where they're not where you're actually writing or voting for legislation, but you're just
talking about it,
talking about the idea, the concept, and how do you write that up? I
can't answer that question with experience because, as I said, I was just there for the first session that was going to be every year. So yeah, and it did certainly make me say to myself when I was done that I got to go out and get a real job. Now that I was done with the legislature and done with UNH in the same year in 1986. So I didn't run again and started out trying to have a career, a money-making career.
Any feel for what's going to happen this year with that?
Well, I'm like anybody. I just watch what's on news and
well, I just hear now people talking about it, but not very much.
Yeah, I don't talk to the only thing I can tell you that you wouldn't have seen on mass media yourself is relatives who argue politics.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, the ones who are on the Republican side are much more agitated and willing to press their issue to the point where I saw relatives at a party, the Democrat one just had to leave the party because they couldn't defend anything and didn't want to hear all this bad news and was so upset about the whole thing that the person just left. So.
Oh, well, I wish people would just listen to it or calm down about it anyway and have a more social discussion.
Well, I know, yeah, this wasn't the best place to have a social discussion when you're at a generally a party.
No, so. I remember in 2011 when the discussion that went by it, and it confused me a lot, and I voted against it because I just didn't feel that it was being handled properly.
And what issue was that?
The convention.
Oh, the convention. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. Is that the last time it was put on the ballot?
I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
2011.
Well, you know, one of the things we did back in '84 was to pass an amendment that said now the legislature can also pass amendments.
Oh.
And my professor, who is Robert Dishman, who I used to go, except when I was in it, I was, like I said, I was at UNH, but I lived at UNH, so I would ride with him on occasion, and we would talk about a lot of stuff. And he was a very learned guy on the liberal side, and he would even say to me, "Oh, you're probably going to be voting against, not with me on this particular issue." But anyway, because he knew I was a Republican from Nashville. But at any rate, he thought that we had basically may have shot the death knell to the convention by giving the power away to the legislature. It's like, well, once the legislature has that power, you may never may never see another constitutional convention.
Right.
And it turns out he was pretty right about that.
Yeah.
So I'm disappointed in it because I thought it was just a great experience for a teenager.
Yeah.
To see. I mean, I don't know if you remember who Chubb Peabody was. He was a gentleman who was governor of Massachusetts and moved to Hollis.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he got elected to it. Yeah. And there were Tony Pappas, first time, who's the commissioner. Right. You know her from Manchester. She was elected to it. And the Commissioner Holden also was elected to it. Because it's Hogan and Holden. We sat next to each other up there as we went through the whole thing. So a lot of interesting people. And ones that kind of made the time, whereas the legislature now is, of course, full of a lot of retired people or people who have jobs that allow them to do that. But it brought out some people who wouldn't be able to take the time to be in the legislature, but were still very interested in policy.
Yeah, it gets
an impressive group. I guess
is
what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
It was an impressive group of people.
Yeah,
and to see that again in 2022, I guess it would be if we voted.
Yeah.
Well, no, it'd probably be 23. Maybe it'd be 24. I don't know. To do it again would be it would be pretty neat.
Well, we're talking about all these politics things. What do you think's the big issues in this election coming up in a couple of weeks?
I don't think there's anything bigger than what's happening with inflation because it changes everything for people. I mean, it affects the price of stuff changing, especially when you're the person at the bottom of the sort of economic rung of things. Those people are the worst hurt.
People
if you're a landlord, as
right.
I am, what do you do when the prices go? Well, you turn around and you charge the poor guy that's not a landlord. It's the guy renting from you. I feel bad about it, but my energy prices went way up. And I say, well, but energy's included in the price of the rent. So what am I supposed to do but raise the rent? So I can make up for that. So I feel,
Well, it's the same thing on the taxes on other companies or something like that.
Yeah, they pass it on.
Yeah. So the people are out here. The ones that are working are the ones that get hit by it. And if you're on a pension, usually the pension doesn't grow very much with you. Right. So you're really getting hit. There's lots of people that are trying to live on Social Security and
right. For those that are on Social Security, you're not changing your income.
Right.
And then everything goes up when you go, oh, what am I going to do? Buy less. And so all of a sudden your standard of living drops really quick.
Right.
I mean, it's everybody's scrambling to change what they get paid so that they can adjust to that change in their living standard, but you can't keep up.
I'm not sure people all understand how that affects the rest of the people.
The voter doesn't have to understand completely to just go, how are things for me now? Is my life better now than it was 2 years ago? And they go, with these prices, everything coming out of my pocket and me ended up with a thinner wallet? No, it's not better. And so
it's too obvious this time.
And it's pretty clear who's in charge. I mean, the Democrats have the president, the Senate, and the House, and so they can't. It's silly for the president. I know, but it's just silliness for the president to go, "Oh, the Republicans." The Republicans are just sitting there watching you. So
or try to hide it. Well, it's only a half a point higher than it was last month.
Right. As if he doesn't understand, and maybe he doesn't understand that it's you're adding whatever
Yeah.
percentage they tell you the inflation was is added to the inflation the month before. So that's,
I'm just
it's
surprised how many
it's how
people
steep
don't
the up
catch that.
is.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not sure if they don't. I tend to
Well,
think
we'll
that.
find out, I guess, on
I think
November 9th,
yeah,
the day after.
right, yeah. So I think that's the big issue. People's pocketbooks and what they
Yeah.
feel with the economy. And New Hampshire's, I understand New Hampshire's actually been better than the rest of the country in that our jobs numbers have not
Yeah.
deteriorated.
Right.
Whereas in the rest of the country,
There's a
they
lot of
have.
layoffs and stuff.
Yeah. So I don't know.
But it's still the energy here. We get hit more than any other state for the energy costs.
Right. We always need to be working on energy, and for us not to be is.
Well, what bothers me is this way they've organized all the suppliers, and that when they come out with a standard price, which is some kind of, I still don't understand how they mix the different suppliers that are promising their cost will be X or Y or Z.
Mm-hmm.
And so they don't want to do it so that they scare out suppliers. At the same time, they don't want to raise it too much to scare out the users. So I don't know how you do it to try to satisfy both ends of the supply chain.
Yeah. No, I don't know that much about energy policy, especially on the state level. I mean, because we have some things that are monopolies, which have their own economic factors to as to what they do. But on the very basic level, that if the price in the world is affected, it affects us.
Well, that's true.
And no matter where you are, ours is a little higher than everybody else's because we're not a producer.
Right.
We're just a consumer of the product.
Maybe
So
we got to look into fracking in New Hampshire.
I have a feeling you wouldn't get anything out of granite. In fact, I bought a house where the problem was what was coming out of the granite.
Yeah, the radon.
So I think if we fracked a lot around here, we'd just end up with a radon problem.
No, you need more slate and stuff like
Right.
that. But,
So I mean, we're stuck. Unless we have nuclear power, we're always going to be.
we have nuclear power.
Well, I know we have half of what they were hoping to plan,
Right.
because of all the complaining that happened, and now the young people, even on the Democrat side, are saying, "Wait a minute, everything else has carbon. We're against carbon. And even if you do, I mean, you see a field full of the solar panels. You got to cut down a bunch of in New Hampshire. You got to cut down trees to put solar panels. Oh, somebody's got to design a solar panel that goes on top of the tree, but they don't. So you just up near Fidelity, they wanted to have solar panels, so they cleared out a big section of woods right off the highway.
Right.
That's all that carbon that was being held there. It didn't make any sense. But anyway, they all those things. When they finally add it up, they say, well, wait a minute. Even young Democrats will say, yeah, well, we need nuclear power. Well, the old Democrats are the ones who are at the fence, at being the clamshell alliance, trying to make sure that we didn't build either power plant up there in Seabrook. So there's a clash there that, of course, eventually will be settled. I think it'll eventually be settled, because if those young ones keep the same mindset, the old ones will be gone eventually, and we'll all agree, we got to use nuclear power. And there's different modes of it, and smaller, and so.
Yeah, I think that's what the thing is right now, is that they're going to have a bunch of smaller groups.
Right.
I mean, I don't know how many people know that I think there are either 6 or 8 reactors in Toronto.
No, I didn't know that.
Right, yeah, right on the lake. And they're all operating safely.
When you say on the lake, you mean on the shore of the lake, or floating in the lake?
No, on the shore.
Yeah.
And they use some of the water to cool. And they also have another way, in case there's some kind of pressure problem. They actually have a second unit, which is just a vacuum system to catch a lot of the pressure stuff. But in any case, it's been there without any operation or any display of, let's get rid of them. And they've operated very, very well.
Right. And New England's nuclear power plants that we've had operated very well. There was Plymouth in Massachusetts. There was, I forget the one in Vermont. I visited it, though. when I was in the legislature. I was on the Science and Technology Committee, so we actually went and visited the one in Vermont. And then it was Yankee, it was
Yankee.
called, but I don't remember the town, southern Vermont. But and then we have the Seabrook one, which has never had a problem.
No.
So yeah.
And the vast majority have no problems at all.
And if we, and for myself, I heat with oil. You know, the truck comes, fills up the tank, and you know it's gone. I pay per month, and so it was $230 per month. You know, they made a plan that hopefully would, and I think, well, it went up toward the end of that, so I ended up paying a little bit more than that. But this year it's gonna be 400 and something. Every month.
I saw my electric one already.
Yeah, so that's money that I had last year that's going out the window. And if we had cheap electricity, which we don't, you know, I could set up things.
Let's
in my
get
house.
some cheap electricity from Canada.
Well, there's that.
Yeah, that's
It's
anyway.
opposing all the different ways to bring energy up here that is causing us to be on the, you know, between a rock and a hard place now.
Well, I got too many people complaining about what they don't know about. Anyway, Dennis, we're run out of time.
Oh, okay.
Thank you very much for your
quick.
time.
You're
I wish you luck in your election.
Thank you.
And whatever influence you have and power, go to it.
Oh, yeah. Well, I won't be any, but just as a voice, that's
Okay.
it.
Well, thank you very
Oh,
much.
you're welcome.
for
And thank
coming.
you for having me. It was a good time.